Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming here tonight, and thank you SOS for the opportunity to talk about my favourite subject. So I'm from Sustainability Victoria. We're one of the smallest agencies in the Victorian government. Our job is to deliver sustainability programs for the government. So we work with communities to help them take action on climate change and to use resources more wisely. And tonight, what I'd like to talk about is, I'd like to show you why energy efficiency is probably more important than you think. And I'm going to be focusing on existing houses rather than talking about the design of new homes and how to make them efficient. Well, how do we retrofit the ones that we've already built? And I'll also be focusing in on the kind of retrofits you can do that will maximise your outcomes in minimal time. So I've got two questions for you. What does a thermally comfortable room feel like? Can you throw out some describing words, please? Pardon? It's not that.
I'd say it's a little bit cooler than this room.
A little bit cooler than this? Okay. So it's a temperature that feels right, comfortable. It's not distracting. Yeah. What's the air doing? Circulating, but it's not blasting away coldly on the back of your neck. There's lots of, I guess, and we block a lot of it out, these sensory feelings. When you're in a really uncomfortable room, a lot of us just try and power through. My sister said that's what they look like when they're watching TV at the end of the night, rubbed up like that. So, and I'll talk about the Australian context in a tick. Here's another quiz question. What is the minimum limit for healthy indoor temperature? What degrees Celsius do you think is the lower boundary for the healthy indoor temperature?
16.
16? 18. 18? Okay. You guys are unusual. The answer is 18 to 26, so that's considered to be the healthy temperature range, as decided by the World Health Organization, who undertook a massive review of all the studies that have been done all around the world, looking at the link between indoor temperature and health outcomes. An example of one of the papers that was published in The Lancet in 2015, they found that in Australia, on average, 2,600 people die of caused by cold indoor temperatures. So that's huge. And they also found that there are more cold-related deaths in Sydney than there are in Stockholm. Why would more people die in Sydney than in Stockholm? Housing quality? Yeah, maybe we build shitty homes.
That's a technical term.
Yes. Another famous study was done in New Zealand in 2007. It's called the Howden-Chapman study, where they ran what was essentially a clinical trial of energy efficiency and insulation. So you normally run a clinical trial on new medicine. They ran a clinical trial on insulation. So they took 1,350 people, randomly divided them into two groups. The first group they were all uninsulated households. First group received their insulation retrofit prior to winter. The second group received it after. And they looked at what the impacts of those retrofits had on the intervention group. What they found was, doesn't sound like much, it was a 1 degree temperature rise for the insulated homes. But what that was linked to was a significant drop in mould, indoor mould. It was linked to a significant improvement in emotional well-being, in social connectedness. If your home's more comfortable, you're going to invite more people around, aren't you? There were measurable drops in days off work, days off school, doctor's visits and medicine use. So all these benefits, you know, we have a tendency to look at payback for these retrofits. How long is it going to take before the energy savings pays back? Well, with these benefits, they start paying themselves off immediately. And incidentally, SV Sustainability Victoria is running that New Zealand trial. We're running that trial in Victoria now. It's called Healthy Homes, and we're expecting the results to come out in October this year. We also ran some social research, so we interviewed 700 healthcare professionals and over 3,000 general Victorians. So I wanted to share you some of the results of that. So 95% of healthcare professionals identified poor quality housing, the residents of that housing as being the most vulnerable groups in relation to climate change health impacts. And the quality of housing and thermal capability will become more important as extreme temperatures increase. And that cold or heat exposure due to thermal quality is already a problem in Victoria, and 40% said it's a major problem. So it's an issue that's already on the radar of the health industry. And this shows the difference between when we interviewed the general public, the difference between if you're living in public housing or if you're not. So 54% of Victorians said their home was too hot last summer. It's 65% if you're living in public housing. 50% said their homes were too cold last winter, 61% in public housing. And here, 1 in 4 Victorians were forced to leave their homes because of extreme heat or cold in the previous 12 months. That's 1 in 2 if you're living in public housing. So income and the quality of your housing has a huge bearing on your well-being and your ability to just stay at home during extreme weather. This crazy graph, in 2017, a colleague gave me some data loggers that I popped into my house. He said, leave them there for 3 months. I gave them back to him at the end of that period. This was through winter, and he mapped it. He seemed quite concerned. I didn't really put it all together until I graphed this up. There's the healthy lower boundary of the healthy, actually it's 18, yeah. Anyway, the bulk of my days were spent in a really unhealthy home, and this wasn't a fancy place, but it wasn't, you know, it's just a brick veneer, 1963. So there's lots of houses like this, and we don't realise how uncomfortable we are until we have a look at the information like this. Oh, that was my saving grace, but that kind of heater, when you're crowding around for, you know, fighting for floor space in front of the rinnai, it's not much fun. So what can retrofits achieve? In 2015, Sustainability Victoria ran a comprehensive retrofit trial where we installed upgrades in 14 homes, and the focus of the upgrades was to improve winter comfort and reduce winter heating and energy use. So the left-hand column is, that's all the houses. So you can see the top house had draft ceiling, ceiling insulation, top-up, wall insulation, gas heater, duct, improvements in gas heating and ducting. So almost all of the houses had draft ceiling, and ceiling insulation top-ups were common as well. And you can see the average, just for your interest, the average costs along the bottom row, just to get an idea of what they cost back then. And here you can see in the bottom row, for an average investment of around $13,000, the greenhouse gas savings was just over 2 tonnes per year, $663 saved per year, and an average payback of 19 years on that investment. But to me, this is the interesting bit. So the building occupants reported a significant improvement in winter comfort. It became much easier to heat the house. The heater performance improved significantly. Water heater, but all the appliances were better. So this is less about financial payback and more about instant quality of life improvement. So where should we start? I presume you're here because maybe you're thinking about what you can do in your own house. 57% of residential energy use is heating, space heating, and 19% on average is for water heating. Does that match with your stats?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
They're both big in mine.
Yes. So you'd be going for the biggest chunks of energy use. And the first place and the cheapest place and the best opportunity for DIY is ceiling drafts. And once you start crawling around your house and having a look, it's amazing where you can find opportunities for blocking up gaps. You might see a bit of chink of light between a door and a door frame, I used to walk around with an incense stick, and you see what happens to the smoke when you walk past a window. An interesting one was the gap that you might get between a door frame and the plasterboard. So it's good to have a look at around the frames and see if you've got gaps there. Old exhaust fans, often they're just a fan and a hole, and all your hot air flies up into your ceiling. Now the new fans have dampers on them, so it shuts off when you're not using the fan. Evaporative air conditioning, those big square ducts are a huge source of warm air escaping and cold air dropping into your property. So you can do a lot of this quite cheaply, and a number of these draft ceiling measures are subsidised by the Victorian Energy Upgrade Scheme, which I'll talk about later. Insulate, insulate, insulate. I thought that my ceiling was insulated. It wasn't. It was a dog's breakfast. So it's really worth getting up there and having a look. Is the insulation providing a proper coverage in your roof? You can have a go if you've got access at doing it, DIYing under your house. Pump in wall insulation, so they can pull the tiles off around the edge of your roof and drop a hose down and fill your walls with insulation. That's an easy way. The hard way is to pull the plasterboard off and install bats and then reinstate the plasterboard. All this is doable. This was I didn't get why pelmets were a thing, but I thought this was a useful thing to share with you. The convective currents at night when your expensive warmed air hits a window, it cools and sinks, and then that draws more warm air down from the ceiling, and you get this convective circulation that cools your room down pretty rapidly. So if you've got a pelmet at the top to stop that warm air from getting behind your curtains, and if your curtains go to the floor, you can stop that cycle in its tracks. Space conditioning, so this is a reverse cycle air conditioner. It's 1/2 to 3/4 more efficient than a gas heater. It's infinitely more efficient than any resistive heating technologies like a bar heater or a fan heater or an oil heater. This trumps all of them. It's a heat pump. It doesn't heat an element, it just runs and pumps heat in and out of your house. So it's much more efficient and really cheap to run. And the other bonus is you can run them if you have a solar array, run it while the sun's shining. Often you can control them via an app on your phone, so it's just a lot of convenience. They're great appliances. And same technology, but a different use. So this is a hot water heat pump that draws warmth out of the outside air and puts it into your hot water tank. Some of these tanks will lose less than a degree over 24 hours. So they're super insulated tanks. They're wonderful heating systems, and again, they can run for free if you have solar panels. I just wanted to show you how I smashed down this. You don't have reticulated gas here, but this was my record, I guess, of smashing down my gas bill and eliminating it last week. So started with, and with hot water heat pumps, the best time to replace them is when your old hot water system dies. So the worst time to be shopping around is when your shower's running cold. So my recommendation is chase up a good plumber who's got the model of heat pump that you want, do a bit of research, get a price, and that way you're ready to go when your system does fail. So you can see the impact of insulation on winter heating. So that orange bar is my energy use and the blue is cost. That's electricity use once I switch from gas heating to electrical heating. And the white bars at the bottom are cost. So even though my electricity usage went up a bit, my costs went down. Energy costs per bill have gone down by retrofitting my house, and that's about a 60% reduction in emissions just using some basic retrofits. So where to go to help? This is the Victorian Energy Upgrade Scheme. You can get all these upgrades subsidised. You can have a tradie come out to your place and undertake, there's a whole list of upgrades that are eligible for these subsidies. If you Google Victorian Energy Upgrades, and SOS will have the links as well, you can get this done reasonably cheaply. And I also wanted to give a plug for a new if anyone owns a small business or if you know any business owners, the Small Business Energy Saver Program, Sustainability Victoria's just launched it. And small businesses can get up to 95% off the cost of upgrades like new fridges, new refrigerated display cabinets, water heaters, air heaters. So this is a great program for any business owners out there. So in conclusion, if you live in a really inefficient house, you've got the most to gain. It's a really good time to start today. It'll make a big difference to a lot of aspects of your life. A lot of these benefits you will see immediately. Living in a cosy home, it can't be beat, especially through winter. Best time to start is today, and you're not alone. You've got this incredible community group right here. Not a lot of communities have a group like this who's willing to coordinate and help make it easy for you. So I'd encourage you to join or work with SOS to make your house cosy and efficient and reduce your emissions. So thank you.